Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Executive Vice President of the Atlantic Council, Mr. Damon Wilson.
Good afternoon, everyone. 10 years ago, meeting in Bucharest, alliance leaders had the issue of enlargement on their agenda. They were debating enlargement into the Western Balkans, Albania, Croatia, and yet at that summit, alliance leaders failed to agree on Macedonia. Failure had consequences. We've watched over the past decade as democratic institutions weakened, economic challenges mounted, a crisis developed in Macedonia. It sort of underscored the idea that NATO's founding formula remains powerful, that the idea of membership providing security provides a framework to promote political growth and development and economic development and growth as well. So today, in Brussels at this summit, we have come full circle, hot off the press, the NATO communique just out, alliance leaders. We have decided to invite the government of Skopje to begin accession talks to join our alliance. Let's welcome Prime Minister Zoran Zaev. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. This is an awesome day for you, an awesome day for your country. Congratulations. It is a historic moment. But let me just start by asking you, at a time when there's actually quite a bit of division and tension within this alliance, why does your country want to join? And why should these leaders decide to welcome you?
Thank you once again. Thank you, everybody participating in this debate. Well, you know, even every family sometimes fight inside of the family, but that is not reason to separate the family or to destroy the family. And also when, you know, our friends, member countries, probably forget how cold is outside of the house. We are a very long period outside of the house. And they must never forget why the alliance are formed: to keep the world peace, to take care about stability and security. We want to participate in that. We are a small country. Until now we participate, and we want to increase our participation to build a better world for everybody.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. So let me ask, you're here, you've just negotiated a very historic deal, a very difficult deal that you've reached with your counterparts in Athens. How'd you do it? How did you meet, how did you reach an agreement with Prime Minister Tsipras? Let's remember Prime Minister Tsipras was elected as the bad boy of Europe, to challenge Europe. And now we see statesmen emerging from this region behind a historic deal. So unpack that a little bit for us. How did you do this?
Probably was not easy for both sides. The reaction from the oppositions are copy-paste from the both sides, and that is confirmation that really we have and we reach fair agreement for both sides. I think that it's only possible from the persons who love own country very much, which doesn't care what will be with the political career for them, but mainly dedicated for the future of the country. There was really difficult times during the negotiations of that kind of sensitive questions like values, like identity issues, like the new name of my country, and etc., etc. But we believe so much in our integration in NATO and also parallelly in European Union. We believe so much that we will have a new friend, our south neighbor, to cooperate together, to preserve future for citizens of both countries. And I think the creation of playing of words in the agreement and will to reach agreement make it possible to get that kind of historical agreement. Everybody must know that the issue is open more than 26 years. And this issue was the wall between us.
Right.
Now I think that we move mountains with this agreement and show to our neighbors, probably to the rest of the world, role model, how that kind of sensitive question is even possible to solve.
Mr. Prime Minister, let me invite you to sit down. We'll continue the conversation. You know, today is a historic day, and I think you have to relish that. We should celebrate that. But the hard work is not done. You have to get through a pretty complicated ratification process, both on your side. We're here with a team that's just come from Athens. We heard about the complications of following through on the process of Athens. So walk us through what comes next. How do you actually bring this agreement to fruition?
There is obligation for both sides. Our side, during the negotiation, asked to give and to get agreement from the Greek side that we must have referendum in our country, because we changed our constitutional name. After that, we asked them also to not have a referendum in the Greek side. But they asked us also to fulfill all these steps in our country, and after that, the ratification in the Greek parliament will be. So the next stage for us is a referendum, probably end of September or really early in October. After the referendum, there is need for constitutional change. We need between 90 and 100 days for this constitutional change. That is by the rule book of our parliament. And after that, coming ratification in the Greek parliament. I believe that the process is very democratic, very normal. What is also the basis of this beautiful alliance. But of course, I believe very much that our citizens will be in favor in very huge percent.
Well, let me just push a little bit on that, because you bring a sense of optimism, and you've maintained that through this entire process, which has been uphill. But you do have real challenge. You have a president who has not wanted to put his signature on this that you've had to address. You have a leading opposition party, Vimro, that seems to have some deep reservations. How do you navigate through President Ivanov, Vimro in Parliament? How do you manage your own politics here?
Keeping dialogue open, for sure. That is the politics. I really regret because our president lose the momentum to be on board, but probably he leave open door, because after the voting of our citizens, in huge majority, the politicians must obey completely and fulfill the intention of the citizens. So maybe the president will decide even for second voting in for the law of ratification of this agreement to not sign and to make it public. But after the referendum, every politician in our country, I know, I feel, it's a very awareness in our country will obey to the citizens' will, because we exist to work for our citizens.
The power of the will of the people will bring around recalcitrant politicians, is your view.
Yes, completely.
So let me keep asking a little bit about the dynamic across the border and with your people. At the end of the day, it's not just an alliance of elites, of political leaders. It's an alliance that really represents a commitment of our societies to be friends, to be allies. So how do you sense this among the people of your country, the people of Greece? Are they prepared to really see their neighbor as not just a neighbor, but as their ally, in which we're committed to defend each other, to fight with each other if necessary? How do you actually translate this agreement into something that captures the spirit and sentiment of your people, that's reciprocated by the Greek people, when we've been in a pretty big debate that has emphasized the differences rather than emphasizing the commonalities?
You know, we live so long period of time separating us, this political issue, what was between us. And now I think that this coming period that the citizens from the both sides will saw that there will be only benefits. Because, you know, like NATO, it means stability and security, but mean economy, mean encouragement for investment. Greece is the first member country of NATO and also in the European Union from all countries from the Balkan. And they seem to be leaders in this southeastern part of Europe. And I think that they will take this position in the future. I know that we have a lot to do in economic cooperation, in cooperation in education, in cooperation in defense, in cooperation, I don't know, in local self-governments, in culture. A lot of opportunities are in front of us. And citizens will saw that and feel that. We have example in our country. We signed agreement for friendship and good neighborhood relation with Bulgaria 11 months ago, in 2nd of August, 2017. There was a huge debate in both sides. That will damage the country, we give up of our history, that kind of things. After 1 year, there is only benefits. The trade increased 12%. Musical groups of young people have more than 10 concerts in Macedonia and also in Bulgaria. Municipalities prepare a common regions because there is European money to earn, you know. A lot of things happen. It brought only benefits for the citizens. I know also the citizens from both countries will feel only benefits, even those who are opponents of this agreement. They will believe also for sure.
So let me broaden the aperture a little bit. We're here at the NATO Summit in Brussels, where, I mean, thanks to you and thanks to the Greeks, we've got some good news. We've got a good news story here. But if you may have noticed that there's a sort of a overarching debate taking place right now, a pretty sharp one you might have picked up in the press, really about fair burden sharing. At a time when the American president has made pretty clear he wants to see America's allies doing more. It's not exactly the best context and environment to talk about adding more allies. And we've heard voices in France, the Netherlands, even back in the United States to say, why are we talking about new small countries from the Balkans when we've got work to do to get our house in order? So how do you make the case that obviously we kind of understand how your country is going to benefit tremendously from NATO membership? How is NATO going to benefit from you becoming a member? How are you going to answer President Trump's call to help carry some of the burden on the European side, defense investments, operations? What does your country offer to the alliance?
No, our country is part of alliance even until now. We are fourth rank country in mission in Afghanistan per capita. And even we increase our participation of 20% than now. And we are equal there in Afghanistan, also in mission in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And also, we are all these differences what NATO have in one small part called Macedonia. We are multi-ethnical society. We built one society for all concept in our country where everybody is equal, where everybody have equal rights and equal responsibilities. So I believe that there will be new wind inside in NATO. There will be new values. We are small but very friendly country, and I know that we can add value to NATO because you know, participation, it's not always in numbers even. It's mean feelings, it's mean sensitivity, it's mean substance of that. And I know that we will cover one part of the world what was very dangerous in the past. Balkan was known like tempting bomb. Now that also keeps stability in Balkan. I know that we change ourselves, all Balkan countries, but have a new member after Montenegro, a new member from Balkan will be only one more peaceful place in the earth.
So let me turn a little bit to the neighbor to the east, to Russia. There were consequences to the failure of the Bucharest Summit decision, and that I think my sense is some of the ambivalence the alliance projected may have opened a little bit of the door for what we saw playing out in your country. A little bit of Russian tactics to sort of disrupt your pathway to Europe. We've just come from Greece, and today, if you haven't been following the news, Athens announced the expulsion of 2 Greek diplomats who were intervening in domestic politics in Greece to foment, 2 Russian diplomats. Thank you, Sandy. Greek authorities announced the expulsion of 2 Russian diplomats who were fomenting opposition on the issue of your country. So, as Prime Minister of a country who has clarity of strategic objective, how do you see the hand that Moscow is playing in your country and in the region right now?
Okay. Moscow, Russia doesn't hide connecting with this bilateral agreement between us and Greece because they know that that will put us to be in front of NATO doors. They doesn't have nothing against our integration in the European Union, but very obviously they are against our integration in NATO. You know, we are a small country. We are not danger to nobody. Even NATO is not danger to nobody. We want to participate in the peace. But having that in mind, we want to share that also with them. We want to build a friendship with everybody. But there is no alternative for our country than NATO and European Union integration. After this agreement with Bulgaria came the agreement with Greece. And they was very aware what will happen. 10 days ago, we get the data to start negotiation with the European Union. Today, it's this huge historical event for us. Official invitation for full member of NATO, and we will start accession dialogue with NATO. We believe, since I'm born, we are in favor of NATO. And of course, honestly, we saw how happy they are not in our country. Today, we saw what happened also in Greece. But the will of the citizens, the will of the governments, the will of the majorities in the parliaments, nobody can change it. Because that is the will based by the arguments, based by the hope of future of both nations, especially my nation, all our ethnical groups in our multi-ethnical Macedonia. So I am very aware that they doesn't stay without some activities. There are also activities in our country. We expose that during the process when a lot of other countries decide to be solidar with Great Britain, because we have case. And we was in this period without mother and father, out of NATO and European Union. But we go further. Why? Because we have arguments of that. It's not comfortable to live in that way when the diplomats are out of the borders or out of that is what is allowed by the international law.
Can you share a little bit about what techniques or what problems, what specifics you've had to deal with?
So example, there is a huge motivation of some small groups to don't stop protest in front of the parliament against NATO, against agreement with Greece, for example. There is activities connected with media and that kind of things. We are a small country. Even in big country, everything is well known for everybody. Also in our country, we know everything. We try to be friendly, really, but sometimes it's not possible to keep it in that line because it became very dangerous for the country.
So I want to open up to the audience and bring in a few questions for the Prime Minister and expand that. Why don't I start over here with Ambassador Poptodorova? I'll try to catch over here as well. Please introduce yourself, and I'll put an emphasis on asking a question, please.
Thank you, Damon. Prime Minister, congratulations. Professionally, I've been engaged for a long time in a very happy fashion with your country's independence and further on bid for NATO. I will press a little bit further what Damon already started regarding Russia, because we all remember that you actually got your public warning, and I'm using an euphemism here, that if Macedonia would pursue its NATO bid, it is bound to face dire consequences. So my question would go a little bit beyond the strictly military or NATO framework, because they're all related. Do you think you can keep your not just independence, but your resilience to penetration, Russian penetration in terms of energy and economy, because that will obviously be one of the many ways in which Russia may try to subvert your further steps. And if you would allow me, I do have a very personal remark to make now. I cannot help congratulating Foreign Minister Dimitrov on all these efforts and the success, because I remember the time when We served together in Washington, Prime Minister, and we were the first two, respectively, Bulgarian and Macedonian ambassadors who appeared publicly together. That was unknown before that for a number of reasons, not very positive reasons indeed, but we were having a number of public events together, and that's one of the fond memories from those times. Thank you, Prime Minister.
Thank you very much for the question. It's still also a debate in our country. What kind of things can happen when we are so close to NATO and start this accession dialogue, etc., etc. You know, there is always solution. If somebody wants to succeed in the goals, what we have it in front of us. For economy, we are not so dependent from Russia, from the East. We are more connected with the West, European, but also United States, Great Britain generally. Also, having in mind in energy, we are part of developing of these alternatives for the whole Europe. Of course, we are part of that. We have now working very hard to be part of these transatlantic pipelines, what is alternative for us to not depend only from natural gas from Russia. And in that way, we are really, I think, it's difficult to have some kind of pressure under us through the economic ways. So we are resilient. Thank you.
I'm going to build a remark with what she said and then turn to Katarzyna, but you have brought your extraordinary team here. Your leadership, you've got your defense minister, your foreign minister, 2 prime ministers, foreign policy advisors. You have shown that a small group of people on leadership make a difference. That's the premise of a lot. We've got a lot of leadership program folks that are in the audience, and I think you and your team have really driven home that message of what people can do. Please.
Hello, Prime Minister. Katarzyna Pisarska, I'm the Program Director of the Warsaw Security Forum. Again, congratulations, but congratulations on step 1. Because from a Polish perspective, and I think from a lot of Central European and not only perspective, NATO accession is step 1, step 2 is EU accession. So how are your preparations there? And what are your hopes for this step 2 to become a full member of the Western institutional setting? And what keeps you up at night? Is it Russia or maybe other things? Your country is in a very specific moment, not only in terms of reforms, but also in terms of geography. So what are your nightmares, if you could share a bit of that with us today?
You don't have to get too personal.
Oh, please do.
Thank you very much. For us, this invitation to be a member of NATO and to have data for starting negotiation with the European Union, it's huge motivation. We are very highly motivated, government, me, but it's not enough. We need motivation in the judges, in the prosecutors, in the journalists, public servants completely. Also motivation in the security system to increase its stability and security in our country. The nightmares for me are how to preserve better life for my citizens. And I know that mostly depends from me, from the government, from the parliament, from the institutions. We have friends. Now, we saw, these friends also support us. We are a small country, and they support us. We must be a reliable partner to them, equal partner, in values, really. That kind of values, what NATO and European Union share to us. Sometimes I think that the believeness in these values are even higher in candidate countries than some member countries. And these values lead us because we want ruling of law, equal for everybody, independent judiciary, free media, free speech, service-oriented governments and administration, security system what is well connected with other members of NATO to protect not only our citizens, to send a message to domestic and foreign investors that here is stable. Now it's time to invest. When we reached this agreement with Greece, 7 companies announced decision that they will invest in Macedonia. That is huge for us. For example, I will mention one company, Johnson Matthey from Great Britain. It's 10% of our GDP, this production. That's mean foreign investment in our country. That can be possible only from the partner countries.
Terrific, fantastic. This gentleman here, please.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and I congratulate you for your invitation to be member of NATO. I think that we are all happy with that because that shows the capacity and the offer of security that NATO offers to the countries. And so this is good to the life of the alliance. But my question is related to the constitution amendment that you are going to take. This is about what? What is the necessity to change your constitution because of that?
You know, we saw how cold is outside. 26 years is this existing political problem between us and our good neighbor, Greece. And having that in mind, that question, that open dispute, block our integration process. We are so disappointed, like Damien mentioned it in 2008 in Bucharest, because the President of the United States announced that there will be invitation from Croatia, Macedonia, and Albania. And we was out. It's very unfair. It's frustrating. Maybe that is the reason why my country passed through that kind of difficult political crisis. Because we saw what's happened in our neighbors when they became members of NATO. Like Bulgaria, for example. They tripled foreign investment in the moment when they became NATO member. They never talk about stability and security of the country. They are part of the system, what is the huge example of stability and security. We want to be that. We are a small country. We are a small market. Only together with other countries, we can preserve the good future of our citizens. So that reasons are so strong. That future are so hopeful, so big need for us that we are even prepared to change our name in a way what we will precise our name with additional word, North. Because we know that is a fact. From this historical region, Macedonia, we are northern part. There is southern part in Greece. There is eastern part in Bulgaria. There is even western part, small one, but western part in Albania. It's a fact. But also, there is confirmation of our identity. In a very smart way, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, our other members of the government, but also from Greek government, prepared this Article 7.2 and .3, how to separate Greece Macedonians or Helada Macedonians from our Macedonians. But in very smart way, how to build friendship through that. And I think that became and can be used like role model because of values, because of identities. And I think that is really very good agreement, fair enough for both sides. The guarantee for that is reaction from the both opposition in both countries. They have same reactions also. But also they know that now was the best moment for a solution. And I know that the benefits will be completely for the both countries and the citizens from the both countries.
Terrific. Let me come to this side of the room. We just have a couple of minutes, so let me take the last two questions if I can. Yelena here, Sebastian here. We'll stick to the Balkans for our questions from the two Balkan members.
Hello, Jelena Milic from Serbia. Of course, congratulations to you and to your entire team. But from where I stand, special kudos to Ms. Shekerinska, of course. And some gratitudes as well, because I think what you and your team are doing is in a way, bringing back hope and re-energizing the rest of us in the region who are trying, to achieve the same with our country still in the region. And I hope that your bravery will set up some kind, and Greece's bravery in that sense, set up some kind of a positive competition that we need in the region, which will move, for example, Serbia and Kosovo in the right direction. But coming from Serbia, I suppose that many here know that Serbia has bilateral big issues with Croatia, concerns how we...
And the question you asked.
Yeah, okay. What's going on with Serbia-Macedonia bilateral relationship? I blame my government for current situation, but let's move on. What do you suggest? What can be done?
How does this also influence Serbia? And let me pick up, Mr. Prime Minister, the last question, Sebastian.
Thank you, Damon. Prime Minister, Your Excellency, I'm Sebastian Borduș. I'm a Millennium Fellow 2018 with the Atlantic Council. I come from Romania, so welcome to the club, welcome to the family. Thank you. Back in the day when President George W. Bush was president, he talked a lot about this paradigm of old Europe and new Europe, and of course Damon was right there. In this whole process and going forward, did you get more support from old Europe or from new Europe?
Uh-oh. All right, the final two questions to you, Mr. Prime Minister.
Okay, I will answer the first question. I think that we don't have enough time to build more and more friendship. Our citizens are very close. The governments have very good cooperation. But the feeling is that there is no enough cooperation. I think that after the solution of this issue between us and Greece, we doesn't have open bilateral issues with no country, and we will be also focused to strengthen the cooperation. With Serbia, we doesn't have open question, and we forget that we must strengthen the relations with both countries. I have very good relations with Prime Minister Brnabić, but also with the President Vučić, and I know that good relation can help us very much. Prime Minister Brnabić encouraged us once again now in Berlin process in London yesterday for this agreement, because I know that all of us 6 countries called Western Balkan countries participate very well, very good, to change the opinion for the Balkan. And really this cooperation, even the open dialogue between Pristina and Belgrade, it's a hope for everybody, and we show to the rest of the world that there is a possible solution. If it's possible solution of that kind of sensitive identity issue question with Greece, maybe it's very hard what is open between Pristina and Belgrade, but there is always solution. What I learned, my country will be in better position, probably Greece also, if the name issue dispute was solved few years ago. I was aware if we don't have solution now, after 5-10 years, will be even worse than now. So the message is find solution as quick as possible for any open problem, because if you wait, there will be worse situation than in the moment. So we will increase cooperation for sure in a better way. So I'm very glad also to have that question from Romania. We doesn't have hard feeling for Bucharest because of this decision, because it was not from Romania, normally.
You're not culpable.
But yes, Romania support us always in our integration process. And I believe that all countries, even oldest member and young members of European Union and also in NATO, are very supportive. Today we saw that the consensus, for example, in NATO was not so equal in European Union, for example. There was an open debate for that. But I'm very aware that the newest member of NATO are visibly more supportive of enlargement than the oldest one. But okay, I understand that. But I'm very happy because NATO open door like policy remain. That is the case what showed through our case through Macedonia.
Mr. Prime Minister, I want to bring us to a close here by just making the observation, listening to you, that sometimes it takes those who are outside the club to remind us of how valuable what we have inside the club. And I think today, we've had a lot of debates. We needed that kind of reminder. So congratulations. Congratulations on your accomplishment. We know you've got a lot of work ahead. You can still celebrate, I hope, tonight. And I hope that we can all convene at the next NATO Summit where we can welcome you back as the Prime Minister of the 30th NATO member. So congratulations. Congratulations. So happy for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.